Hello, and welcome back to my Fire Emblem 8 0% Growths Reverse Recruitment LTC. I'm Osfe, and today we're going to be doing the prologue through Chapter 3. You may have noticed on the right side of the screen there's a little Game Boy Advanced, and what that is an input display, so you can see exactly what buttons I'm pressing at any given time. This is kind of a habit I got into from speedrunning. And I think, especially in a run like this, where there's going to be a lot of fast menuing, it's kind of just nice to see exactly, what I'm doing. There's also a little image there. I also kind of just plan on doing a fun little meme image in place of the screen for each episode or chapter. But yeah, that was the prologue in one turn. Goes by pretty quick. If you've played FE8 before, you know the RNG right in the beginning of the run basically lets you crit those first two fighters and then have your pre-promote finish off the boss, which in this case is Cyrene. I guess now's a good time to start talking about our units. So since this is reverse recruitment, our Lord Erica gets replaced by Myrrh, who you may think would be super broken because in vanilla FE8 her Dragonstone gives her insane stat bonuses, but the patchmaker basically removed those stat bonuses, so her combat's actually pretty subpar. She also gets a Rapier Stone, which is basically just a rapier that Myrrh can use. But apart from these first couple chapters, she's not going to be super useful throughout this run. What's a lot more significant, though, is our Seth replacement, who is Cyrene. So instead of having an 8-move, ground lock unit, we have a flyer from the get-go. Combat-wise, Cyrene actually has some comparable stats to Seth. I think she has a little less bulk and the weakness to bows, but the flyer utility more than makes up for that. In Chapter 1, we also get Innis and Sale. Innis is a 2-range archer, nothing special. Sale, on the other hand, is already giving us a really good 1-2 range option that hits on enemy res, which is pretty big. Anyways, on to Chapter 2, which is going to be our first route map of the run. In this chapter, we get 4 new units, the most notable one being Tethys, the Dancer. I guess we don't technically get her until next map starts, because recruiting her would take quite a bit of time. We'd have to recruit Garrick, who's the Ross replacement, and then use Garrick to recruit her, so it's just easier to finish the map, and then we automatically get her from the starting of turn 1. But anyways, Tethys is insanely good as a dancer. She does no combat, but she has the ability to dance, which lets a unit move again. And this immediately unlocks some clears of maps that would otherwise be impossible without a dancer. Usually in Fire Emblem, you tend to get dancers later into the game, mostly because of how good that dancer utility can be. I believe in Sacred Stones in particular, you get Tethys in Chapter 10 of Ephraim Route and 13 of Ephraim Route. But since this is reverse recruitment, we get her in Chapter 2. So, yeah, like I said, we're already going to be able to start, doing some clears that normal 0% growths wouldn't be able to. Other units we get are Renak the Thief, who, kind of just does thief things. He's also a sword user, and he's pretty fast, so he can be kind of helpful against some of the early game axe users. There's also Noel, who's not going to be super impactful in this run. His combat isn't great, and we get a lot of other pretty good magic users. And then there's Garrick, who, if you're familiar with normal 0% growths, Garrick can be an absolute beast if you give him some stat boosters. However, in reverse recruitment, he is, could not be further from that. Since he replaces Ross, he is basically a sword trainee, which means he has just horrible stats and little to no prospects of ever becoming the absolute monster that he is in vanilla 0%. If you noticed on turn 1, I actually did some RNG rigging just so Garrick would survive his encounter with the brigand, the axe user brigand. That's how bad he is. But yeah, those are our new units. We won't actually get to use Tethys and Garrick until next map. In the meantime, we've been trying to funnel XP into Innis and Sale, who are going to be the only, I guess, long-term units we're going to be using, apart from, Cyrene, obviously. We're actually only going to be promoting Innis, but at this point, I was considering promoting Sale. It didn't end up working out, but that was the plan initially. But yeah, that was Chapter 2 in 4 turns. So before we start Chapter 3, we're actually going to be doing some shopping from the world map. If you didn't know, in Sacred Stones, in between most chapters, you get access to the world map. And this lets you visit places you've been before and use the armories and shops that are there. We're immediately going to be taking advantage of that and stocking up on some weapons, the most important of which being the 1-2 range javelins and hand axes. In more enemy-phased focused Fire Emblem games, having 1-2 range weapons is pretty important, especially when going for low turn counts, since it lets you do enemy-phased combat, much more efficiently. So in this chapter, we get 2 new units, the first of which being Marissa, the Nami replacement. Much like in vanilla Sacred Stones, Marissa is iconic trash. She'll have a little bit of utility in this map since she has favorable combat against the early game axe users, but as soon as we get the chance, we will be benching her along with Garrick. The other new unit we get in this map is Ewan, who is the Culm replacement. While we already have a mage in Saleh, the slightly different combat stats that the two have actually mean that they fill slightly different roles. So compared to Saleh, Ewan has slightly less magic, so he does slightly less damage per attack, but he has a couple extra points of speed. So there are going to be specific scenarios where Saleh is able to, finish off an enemy that Ewan can't because he does less damage. And there are going to be scenarios where Ewan is able to one round and kill an enemy that Saleh can't because, Ewan has those couple extra points of speed. Either way, though, they're both going to be pretty dang good. They're both, magic users, and enemies in Sacred Stones tend to have, less resistance, at least compared to defense. And also, magic users have 1-2 range, so, they're both going to be pretty useful despite their differences. You'll also notice me doing some inventory management here with Myrrh, getting rid of my consumables, and this is to avoid being robbed by that pesky little thief you're about to see. That thief loves to steal anything he can, and by removing his options to steal, Tethys and Rennek are both too fast for him to steal from, and we got rid of Myrrh's consumables. He's instead forced to attack us, which lets us chip him with Myrrh and then finish him off with Innis on the next player phase. This is also the first map in which we'll actually be saving a turn over vanilla 0% growths, and this is mostly due to having Tethys, our dancer. Tethys allows us to get to the boss 1 turn early with Cyrene, and since we can 1-round him, we can immediately seize with Myrrh right afterwards. So already saving turns on vanilla 0%. But yeah, that was Chapter 3 in 3 turns. I will see you guys next time. Peace.